Hey, what up? What up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Foxing Around podcast. I'm your host, Raymond Fox.
And I'm your co-host, River Thomas.
Hey, man, and we got a very, very huge and exciting episode coming up for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. We have Mr. Ted Nolan. He'll be joining us in a minute. What we got going on, River? Let's see that hat real quick. Show the people that hat. Oh, that hat. That is one nice hat. Ladies and gentlemen, we got hats and two kinds of sweaters getting restocked next week. We're going to start taking pre-orders on Wednesday, so you can hit us up for that. We're really excited about dropping some new merch. We'd also like to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Cleanest Way, Duct and Furnace Cleaning. Give them a follow on Facebook. Look them up, man. Shannon Brass, Dave, and everybody else over there at Cleanest Way. They're a great sponsor, and they take care of us over here at Foxing Around. So much love for all that. Dude, this is a moment. I can't believe today, man, we were on the phone call and we kind of ruined half the podcast for you guys because we were asking all sorts of questions, and we were already, having our little mini podcast with him, just picking his brain a little bit. And thankfully he was so gracious and kind and let us pick his brain for a while, man. I'm really excited about this. River, what do you think of that? Just hanging out with him, having a FaceTime call.
Yeah, it was surreal, bro. It's crazy, man. You see this guy on national TV. You see him in the NHL. He's a former Pittsburgh Penguin, which is me and your favorite team, bro. He told us a little story about Mario Lemieux, man. It's crazy, bro. It's so crazy.
Yeah, man, I'm super, super excited. Without further ado, let's get right into it. We know why we're here, man. Without further ado, let me introduce to you Mr. Ted Nolan.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
We had a great call this afternoon. I thought that was the show, but we have to do an encore.
Yeah, man, no doubt. What you been up to lately, Ted? Like, I know you've done a few interviews lately as well too. COVID has kind of hunkered down and ruined a lot of things for a lot of people. Are you looking forward to getting back out there in 2021, maybe doing some 3 Nolan camps? What are you up to, kind of looking forward, and what's going on in the present?
Well, right now, presently, I'm guessing like everybody else, and really taking this COVID situation very seriously, and trying to keep my distance from people, and staying at home as much as I can, wash my hands. I got into walking. I walked a bit to 10,000 miles in the last year. Get into puzzles. I make puzzles. Actually, I'm reconnecting with my language a little bit. Staying close to my two boys, that Brandon and Jordan. They both have kids now, so I'm a grandpa. So I get to see them as not as much as I would like to because of COVID. We see one for say a month, and then we have to cleanse ourselves for 2 weeks before we see the next one. So it's a little hectic, but hopefully, as everything else, this will pass too.
Hey, that's what we're hoping for too over here, man. We're really hoping that a lot goes down. That's really cool, man. You're a mushroom, as we call it in Cree territory. That would be the grandpa. So that must be a phenomenal role that you fill, man. And how does that feel being a grandpa?
It feels a little bit better, I tell you. I think that's the reason why we have kids, is for them to give us kids to be grandpas and grandmas and what have you. And I tell you, it's great. We can spoil them rotten and then drop them off at home. But it's been fun. Hunter, the oldest grandson, he really took a liking to hockey, so he's getting pretty good at it. So next one, he likes the box, and I'm from a boxing family. So and next are 3 girls, so we'll see what they're going to be doing. But I'm interested in watch their sporting careers also.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. Real quick, man, I forgot about it. I shouldn't forget. I'd like to give a big shout out to our brother, Jason Chiquita, for making this all possible. I know you're connected to him a little bit too, and he helped bridge this and get you on here, man. So we got to give a big shout out to Big J, man. Much love, brother. Well, take us back, Ted. Take us back to the Garden River First Nation 8-year-old Ted Nolan, man. What were you doing? Where was the hockey love coming from that early in your life?
Well, for some of the people who don't really know too much about my story and how it all began, I'm like a lot of our people. I grew up in a very small First Nation community in Northern Ontario, right outside the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah, talking to you young guys now, it seems like I lived in the 1800s, but actually it was 1950s. It wasn't too that long ago, but I grew up in a house that didn't have indoor plumbing and electricity for a few years. My first shower I ever had in the house was the first time I built it into a house in Kenora, Ontario. We'll get into that story later, but I'm from a large family. I was a powwow dancer. I powwowed until I was 16. I drummed for a few years. Had my own trap line when I was a kid. So I was really outdoorsy, but sports is something that I always loved to play, and seeing the locals play in our community. My brother was a coach of the Garden River Braves, a senior men's hockey team that I went to watch and actually played with when I was about 14, 15 years old. So it was a lot of fun watching them. But I think it all started when I was about 8 years old, 6 years old. We didn't have too many places to go and play hockey, so I made my own rink in my backyard, and I made it with a pail of water. And that's the metaphor I use with a lot of kids when I go into schools and communities and talk to them. Whatever goal that they set for themselves, anything can be accomplished. But it's kind of like one day at a time, one pail of water in my case at a time. I made that rink every year for 4 or 5 years. I played recreation hockey. I never played AAA hockey. Never played AA or single or AAA, and that's how I learned how to play. And along the way, someone must have seen me play. I'm not too sure exactly who, but someone seen me play and asked me if I'd be interested in going to Kenora, Ontario, which is about, and they were part of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League at the time. And that was about 18 hours from my house. And when they asked me to go there, it was almost like getting asked to go to Disney World. I was so excited because I get to go somewhere to play hockey, which I loved, but never being away from home. I don't think I've been away from home more than two days on my own. We're a close family. I got 6 brothers and 5 sisters, and everything was close. And to be away from home for the first time was kind of shocking and terrifying, to tell you the truth. And then you throw in the racism and the prejudice and the name calling. And I never fought in hockey my entire life leading up to that year. And it almost had to fight to survive. So a long about question is that's how it all started. And at 16, it switched from loving the game to trying to survive in the game. And my 2 brothers even came to town to watch me play. And I thought to watch me play, but actually they came to bring me home, because I wrote in my letters that I wasn't having a good time. I stopped going to school. Things weren't very good, and I cried myself to sleep on a number of occasions. And when I still remember my brother standing beside the car, wanting to bring me home, and I told him that he said, "Steve, if I quit now, next tough situation in my life, I'll probably quit that too." So I didn't want to quit, and plus I didn't want them to chase me home. And thankfully I didn't, because the rest is history. I went to the Sioux Greyhounds the following year. I had a chance to play with one of the greatest players of all time, Wayne Gretzky. Got drafted in the National Hockey League. Got a chance to play with Stevie Yzerman. Got traded to Pittsburgh. Had a chance to play with Mario Lemieux, Montreal Forum, Toronto Maple Leaf Garden, Madison Square Garden, Chicago Blackhawks, and all those wonderful things. And it happened because I didn't leave that year when I was 16.
Wow. That's crazy. Like, did you feel like there was a moment where you, like you said, you knew that you were gonna, if you didn't leave, or if you would have left, you never would have finished it off? Did you kind of know after that moment that you were destined for a bigger purpose, a bigger stage? Did you want to get to the NHL at that point, or was it, like you said, just to survive and maybe get out of town and get away from certain things that were kind of plaguing you in the reserve, or just wherever you were at your life?
I really love to play. I just love to play, and I never had the visions of playing. You hear people talk about it. I had dreams of playing in the National Hockey League when I was a kid. I never did, because we didn't have a TV to really watch the National Hockey League. I didn't really know what it was, but I loved to play. I really did. I was a competitive guy. I loved baseball as much as I did hockey, and hockey is one of those things that when it switched to in Kenora, when they didn't want me on the team and tried to do everything in their power to get me off the team and fight and bully and school and it wasn't very good and it switched from you're not going to chase me away. I'm going to stay, and the more I stayed, the more I learned that people go on to play in the National Hockey League, and right then and there, I said, I'm gonna work my tail off, and I'm gonna hopefully one day to play there. And when I was 23 years of age, I played my first game in the National Hockey League, and it was against the Chicago Blackhawks in old Chicago Stadium, and it was one of those days I'll never forget because I had a lot of tears when I was growing up, as far as missing home and the way I was treated. But when I played that first game in Chicago, I walked up those stairs with tears of joy this time. There were tears of happiness that I was able to accomplish that. But with the strong support of our ancestors before us. Some of the things that they had to go through, especially with the residential schools and the day schools and all those horrible things that happened. And that's why I told myself at a young age, because I was taught very strongly of who we are by my parents. And that was the best gift they ever given me, was to make sure I was proud of who I was and who I am. And so when I walked up those stairs, I had tears, but there were tears of joy to say that I played that first game in their honor.
Yeah, man, that's so special. That's amazing to hear, and to know that, the ancestors were with you, and probably your family and your friends and your whole reserve back home. That's something really special. So, after you get there, it must feel good. It must feel real. What's it like from transitioning to that to, I know you picked up a couple injuries and were basically, you're still in the prime of your career, but your body just wasn't holding up. Was it tough to retire? And were you looking for something else right away, or were you just kind of done with the game? How did you kind of transition from being a player right to being a coach?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, Raymond, because it's one of those when people think that when I was injured, I ruptured 2 discs in my lower back when I was playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins, which forced me to retire. But the day I retired was probably one of the happiest days of my life. When people think you're so excited about playing and how long you're going to be playing, and every year it was, and you could ask my wife, we've been married now for 40 years, and when I got drafted to Detroit the first year, I left camp. Because I was so scared. I was intimidated. The guys' legs were about that big, and arms, they had mustaches, and they're huge guys. And here I was, 175 pounds, soaking wet. My legs had the little skinny Ojibwe legs from back home, and my arms were much bigger. And I tell you, I was scared. So I left. I left camp, and I came home. And Ted Lindsay, bless his soul, he passed on. But if it wasn't for Ted Lindsay, my career probably would never have taken off, because he's the one who called me. He tracked me down at home, asked me why I left. I told him, he said, well, that's what we do in a minor hockey league. That's what we develop you to get you ready for. I went back, but the only reason I went back was my girlfriend at the time, who just turned 17. I said, if you come, I'll go back. And she came with me. And every year after that, every training camp, I had the same bad feeling in my stomach about leaving. I didn't want to leave home. I loved home, and I'd cry for the first 2-3 weeks I was away. But thankfully, my wife was there to help me get through it, and I adjusted. And I was so happy to go back home. So it's kind of love and hate relationship for 6 years. But when I retired, that was one of my happiest days.
Hey, that's special. That's special. So you go home, you're happy, then you think, well, what's next? How'd you jump into the coaching ranks, man? And how did you land your first job? And was it something you always saw yourself doing, or how did it work?
I'd be lying to you if I said that I'm going to be a coach. No, everything happened by accident, or maybe by faith. I'm not too sure, but I know the importance of education, and I managed to get my high school degree before I turned pro. And when I retired, I immediately rolled back into university. I went to Lake Superior State University, which is across the border from us in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I was going to get my business degree. And I was walking, and they had an NCAA hockey team, the Lake Superior State Lakers. And I was walking down the aisle, and I bumped into the coach. And he knew I played pro. And he said, "Hey, Ted, would you mind coming out helping some of the guys in practice one day?" Which I did. Then Phil Esposito, that's a name for you. He owned the Sioux Greyhounds of the Ontario Hockey League, where I played junior. And he called me up at home. He said, "What are you doing helping those Americans out? You should be helping us out." And I said, "Well, yeah." So anyways, he asked me to come and be a part-time coach with him, which I accepted. About maybe 3 weeks later, they fired the head coach and asked me to become the head coach. And my immediate response was, "No, I can't coach. I don't know what I'm doing in coaching." So he said, "Just take it over for a little while." So I took it over, and our team wasn't very good. And I tell you the truth, I wasn't very good as a coach either. So we were a perfect match. And the fans start booing, and I kind of took it personally. I'm going, "Man, I'm just doing this guy a favor, and they're blaming me." So what I did is once we got through that year, and I fell in love with coaching more so than playing. And they asked me to come back the following season. And so to be fair with all the players, I had to learn how to be a coach. So I called up 6 or 7 of my previous coaches that I played for, asked them what their plan was, how they had a weekly plan, a daily plan, a monthly plan, a yearly plan. I bought a bunch of books. I bought one book I thought was a coaching or a spiritual book. I was walking in the bookstore and I seen Sacred Hoops. I'm going, that's got to be a spiritual book. So I bought it. And it was Phil Jackson's book, the basketball coach. And lo and behold, he studied native spirituality, and he studied Buddhism, and he talked about his coaching, and it's probably one of the best books I got for. So I studied like crazy, and we went back the next year, and we won the league championship. We went to the Memorial Cup. We did it the next year, and we did it 3 consecutive years in a row. And I fell in love with coaching. And that's when they asked me to go to pro. I signed with actually, we won the Memorial Cup in 1993. Then Hartford Whalers called to be a part-time assistant coach there. Then the following season with the Buffalo Sabres.
Wow. That's cool. So you tell us how like your first year as a coach, you stunk, and then you got better. You got a bunch of advice from all these former pros, I guess, like 6, 7 different coaches. And what would you say your coaching style came out to be? And has it evolved from when you very first started coaching? Like let's even say when you first started coaching the Buffalo Sabres to when you last coached the Islanders. Has there been a big shift?
You know what? Truthfully, my coaching style really evolved the way I was raised. I was raised in a family of 12, and we had to learn how to work together and protect each other and be there for one another. And I found I thought growing up I was a favorite son, and mom and dad liked me the best and loved me the best. And then I overheard my sister saying that same thing to her friends, and my brother saying it, and I'm going, man, we all felt that way. So I brought that into my coaching philosophy, and during the time I was learning, I was able to get Fred Shiro, who coached the Philadelphia Flyers, Broad Street Bullies, his era, and I had a chance to get some of his notes, and I read one of his notes, and it said, "You have to learn to win with what you got, or you don't win at all." And I'm going, I was complaining of my first year. I said, if I had a better team, I'd win. If I had a better goaltender, I'd win. If I had bigger defense, I'd win. And I was complaining about the things I didn't have. And I looked at my own life. I never complained about the things I didn't have. My first pair of skates I ever owned were size 6 or size 8. My feet were size 3. I put my rubber boots and I made them fit, and that's how I skated. I never complained. And we used to talk about poor stories, how poor we were. And I used to tie these 2 wool socks together and put them as my toque outside because it was so cold. but I never complained. I never complained about anything. And here I was complaining about the things I didn't have. So as soon as I read that note, I worked with what I had, and we made the players the best that they could be. United them as a group, and I'll tell you, it was a fabulous group of guys, and they worked hard. They worked extremely hard, and we competed like a son of a gun every game, and we won the league championship 2 years and won the Memorial Cup the third year. So that philosophy of working as a unit and working together never fails. So that's what I learned, and that's what I brought into my coaching realm. And don't forget to ask me about the greatest story that ever happened to me in coaching, and I'll bring that up later on. About I even brought a medicine man into the locker room in the National Hockey League. So we'll get into that later. But that's my philosophy, and that's how we worked, and it was a lot of fun.
Dang, man. A real player's coach, it sounds like. That's amazing. So after you win with Sault Ste. Marie, like you said, you took the Hartford Whalers job for a year, and then you get the big seat at the Buffalo Sabres. Talk to us a little bit about that era, I guess, and that time in your life, and just, what it was like coaching in the NHL. You did amazing for that time, and then maybe transition it a little bit into what happened and how it ended, and just kind of talk to us about the entire experience, because I know it's something that is really talked about.
Well, like I said, I never had visions of coaching in the National Hockey League. It's just something that I did, and we did pretty well. Then all of a sudden, the NHL comes, and then the Buffalo Sabre opportunity opened up, and I got the job. And I tell you, we had a good group of guys. We had Matthew Barnaby and Rob Ray and Brad May, and we had Pat LaFontaine. We had Dominic Hasek as a goaltender. I tell you, we had a competitive group of guys, and we my second year in the league, we won the Northeast Division title, which is the first time they did it in something like 16 years. Mm-hmm. I won Coach of the Year in the National Hockey League, and I thought right then and there, I thought my coaching career was going to be a longevity. I found something that really connected with. I worked at. Then you get rewarded with the trophy, but that's where the story kind of switches to the dark side. I get Coach of the Year. It was well documented by the general manager at the time, John Muckler, who unfortunately just passed away recently. And but we had our differences. I wouldn't lie about that. We just had our differences, and he got let go, unfortunately, and then everybody started blaming me, and the rumors started coming, and what I thought was going to be a long, joyous career in coaching ended up being my walking papers out the door. I couldn't work with management. Then they started making up rumors about coming to practice drunk, having affairs with players' wives even. So I mean, it was gut wrenching, and that stuff really probably hurt the most. It really, somebody could tell me I can't coach, but when you're talking about someone's character and who they are, that really hurt. And I had two young boys at the time, Brandon and Jordan, were 12 years old, and they could read in papers and they could see things. So I didn't want to fight. I was done fighting, and I walked away. I just walked away, and I said, no more. And I went into a little bit of a dark period of time for about a year and a half. I just I lost that sense of belief that if you worked hard, good things usually happen. And I lost that in myself, in my being. I said, it doesn't work that way all the time. So anyways, I was lost. I was frustrated a little bit. And it's funny how things pop to you and come to you. I went to a movie one afternoon. I watched a Muhammad Ali movie with Will Smith, and I was watching that movie, and And all the stuff that he went through and how he got his license taken away. The Muslims kicked him out of their religion, and he was broke and all this stuff. And when he got his license back and he was able to fight again, I always remember what he said. He never stopped being a champ. He never stopped being a Muslim. He never stopped being who he was. And as soon as he said that, it kind of sparked back in me. Coaching is what I did. It's not who I am. And I have to start being who I am again. So I walked out. Emotional. But right then and there, I said it. But I gotta be myself again. And I went home. I called up a few friends of mine. I said, I got an idea. I said, how about starting a golf tournament, and we'll raise some money for our women, and we'll give out scholarships to First Nation women in Ontario. So we did it, and geez, it was packed. People came from all over the place. We raised quite a bit of money. Then we did it again, and we did it again. And then a good friend of mine, I've always wanted to honor my mother. She was drunk. She was killed by a drunk driver in our community when I was only 20 years of age. I lost my father when I was only 15, and I always wanted to honor my mom, especially in a way that she honored us. So in 2004 we started the Ted Nolan Foundation, and we raised. We just closed it recently, but today I think we raised something like $1.5 to $2 million for First Nation, and now we got it into universities and into colleges. The scholarships are continuing to keep going. So it was one of the best things ever happened in my life. But that movie was the movie that kind of tricked it to say, hey, just quit whining, quit complaining about what happened. It's not who you are, and be very proud of who you are. So I took that to heart. I went, did it, and then what happens? I'm sitting at home. I get a call from Mr. Robert Irving. Their family owns Irving Oil out in the East Coast. He called me up one day, and he said, Ted, I wonder where you live. I said, I'm in Southern Ontario. So when I get my plane, I could pull it over and we could meet. I said, anybody who has a plane and wants to meet with me, I'm going to meet with them. And he said, I got a junior hockey team, the Moncton Wildcats. And I was wondering if it was in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Would you be interested in coaching? And this is 8 to 10 years after I was done coaching, and I got walking out of that movie from Muhammad Ali. Said goodbye to hockey. I'm never going to do it again. And here I am listening to Mr. Irving. And my wife looks at me and says, you're not going to Moncton? I said, no, I'm not going to Moncton. She goes, last place I want to go to is Moncton, but I'm going to meet with Mr. Irving for sure. And I met with him, and was probably one of the nicest men I've ever met in my entire life. And we talked, and he talked about his hockey team. He talked about his province. He talked about doing something for his city, and he had a hockey team, and he said, I wonder if you'd be interested in coaching. And right then and there, I called up my wife at home and said, guess where we're going? We're going to Moncton. But anyways, it was a fantastic year. Probably to this day, even winning the Memorial Cup and spending the 3 years with that team, winning the Quebec championship with the Moncton Wildcats was probably one of the better highlights of my coaching career, and I enjoyed the year so much. And then lo and behold, what happens? The National Hockey League calls again, and I'm back with the New York Islanders, and even have a chance to coach Team Latvia at the Sochi Olympics in 2012. So one door closed and another one opened up, and it led back to even having a second crack in Buffalo. But so I'm a strong believer that just don't give up. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to unfold. You just keep the faith and keep working, and usually good things happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you talk about like I'm sure everybody watched like The Unwanted Visitor, and you talked about how they do have that old boys club, and I see that, like, even just as a fan of hockey, I see that it's always the same cycle of coaches getting fired and rehired, and there's never any new coaches. And but basically, what I want to ask you is like, would you coach again if the opportunity was there? And we'll start at NHL. And even that, if it was for like a lower team, you know, like a CIS team, a university team, a junior team,
Would
a
I coach?
WHL team, any of that, would you ever agree to
You
it?
know what? I told my wife before I wasn't interested in going back to coaching when Mr. Irving called, and all of a sudden, I love coaching. I really do. It's grabbing a whole bunch of people together, and they're all over the place, and mixing them all together and competing and battling and trying to win a championship. I love that aspect. So, answer your question, I say I'm not looking for it, but if I'm asked, I probably will. I love that part. So, but you're right. The way it's we talked about it in the Unwanted Visitor. It is the boys club, and if you're part of it, you get offered job after job after job, and you don't have to win. And that's the scary part. I mean, if you win, that's one thing, but when you don't, it's tough. So I'm hoping maybe one of these ex-players that I coached back in the day becomes a GM one day, and maybe before I get too old though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And how about coaching players who you may think who you think may have like racial tendencies? How do you maneuver that and shut it down? Because, for example, like me and Ray, we're First Nations athletes, and sometimes, like, I'm sure that we had to, well, for a fact, we've had to deal with racial tendencies from teammates and from like coaches in the past. And like, you're in this position of power now over these players, and you know that some of them might come from small towns, they might have these like racial views on indigenous people, and you being an indigenous coach having to lead them to championships, these young men, how do you address those? How do you look past those?
Well, you know what? Great question. Yeah, we didn't that 15-minute documentary on TSN and W5 was only a little glimpse of what happened.
Mhm.
When I played in Kenora, I could have been one of those missing and murdered. I mean, there's one incident where I was almost thrown off a building that was on the water, that the rocks were on a beat. If I was, thankfully that somebody saw me and helped me, because the guy, I swear to God, he was a man, and he was going to throw me over. And I managed to make it through. Then I make the Sioux Greyhounds, and they left me behind on the bus twice. I mean, who leaves a 17 and 18-year-old kid behind, especially a major junior hockey team? And so I went that. And then you hear some of your own team or people that you're playing against give you the old Wahoo sign all the time, and get back to the reservation, you stinking drunk Indian all the time. And you hear those things, and it's not, it doesn't get old. It burns even more. And then all of a sudden you play with players on your team that say it to you. I mean, I mean, there's an incident in pro that somebody said it to me on the during a shift on the bench, and I couldn't get him. I couldn't do anything on the bench. But I tell you what, soon we got in the locker room, we fixed that problem pretty good. So, and then you coach. Then you coached junior players, and how some of these guys react. And one of the players, he didn't react in a very good way, and he said, "F you, you stinking Indian." I'm going. I mean, I'm coaching major junior hockey, and I'm a coach, and one of these players yell at me, and what do you do in that situation? Or one of them turn around and say, "F you." I'm going, what do you do? But you can't. You got to bite your lip, and you got to bite. You got to be a better man, and you wait to the right situation. You address it, and you talk to them, and and hopefully they learn from it. But one of the players that did do it to me, it was a long story, and I was coaching the Buffalo Sabres the second time, and that was like, I don't know, 20 years since I coached junior hockey. And one of the players who did say that to me called me up and wanted me to meet his family, and he apologized for what he said. So sometimes when you're young, you say things that maybe you shouldn't say, and you don't know where they're getting it from. You don't know what they're taught at home. And as a coach and as a teacher and as a person in leadership, you can't react as a 16-year-old to a 16-year-old react. You have to act in a more mature way. So we dealt with it, and then, like I said, and the players learn to respect you, who you are, and I think that's why the game needs to change a little bit. That's why they need a little bit more color, more. When I first got into the business, I heard everybody say it. Oh, we all have to be on the same page. Oh, on the same page. Everybody kept saying it. We all have to be on the same page. And well, same page in a book is pretty boring. I mean, it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's not very exciting. So I think people should be different, and we should welcome differences and who they are and their family. And just because a lot of our kids who play, my boys included, myself, when you don't speak too loudly and you don't and you're a little shy when you have the team meetings and you have to get up and speak and you're unable to because you're too shy to. They think you don't care, and that has nothing to do with caring. It just has something to do with your upbringing and how you address certain things. So the game has to be a little bit more understanding.
Yeah. We were kind of talking again about, the interview that you gave, and me and River studied it and we took a lot of things out of it. But one thing I think that was really important to me is that you said point blank, you said, if I was white, I would be coaching. If I was white and from Toronto, I would be coaching. And that was a fact. And I think that was really special. Did it take you a lot of time and courage to build up to say something like that? Because, when you walked away, obviously, you talked about us, that there was some tension there and there was some bad feelings towards the NHL and the old boys club. What made you decide, like, hey, something needs to be done here. I need to use my voice and speak. And, was there ever were you ever scared of repercussions, obviously against you? But I know you have two sons too, as well, that, were active in the NHL at the time. Was it hard to kind of bite your tongue and not be able to say certain things?
Yeah, when this happened, when it first happened, I really wanted to fight back. I really wanted to, and then all of a sudden, I talked to some people in the business and said, Ted, it's going to be your word against billionaires. I mean, whose side are you going to take? They're not going to take your side, so you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And I really didn't want to coach after that anyway, so it was a good reason for me to walk away. And then all of a sudden, my boys became professionals, and watching them play, and I never really got into what happened with me. And then I had there was a reckoning that happened in the United States with George Floyd, that kind of really sparked something inside me that I held back for all these years, and everything in life is timing. And when sometimes you want to do something now, but it's just not the right time. And I felt at that time it was better for me to walk away than to cry. They would have said, just another complainer. They'll bury me. And maybe by speaking at the right time, they wouldn't listen. So I zipped up. And plus, I was very scared of what they might do to Brandon as my son and Jordan as my son. What could have happened to them. So I zipped it really good. And then until George Floyd happened. And I listened to the police officer in St. Louis that he said, if we don't speak, we're complicit to the problem. And as soon as I heard that, I'm going, okay, here it goes. And I'm gonna speak my truth. And I really strongly believe that if I was white and I was downtown Toronto, I went through all the coaching clinics like all these guys do. I'd be connected to somebody, and my buddy will hire me. And if once I get fired from that, my other buddy will hire me there. And you don't even really have to win. You just have to be connected to your buddies. and once you're connected, you're in. So all these they all go to coaching clinics together. They all go to golfing tournaments together, and my time was spent back home at the powwows and in my family side. I never went golfing. I never did all these clinics. So when you're not in that mix, it's pretty hard to be part of the mix. So that's why I spoke. And hopefully now with things changing, that they will see more. Because to this day, I still have a very hard time because kids, they want to see something that looks like them. And hopefully I don't get too emotional, but and I told it 101 times already, if not 500 times. I was in the Toronto airport one day. This was, I think, 10 years after I was done coaching. And I was walking down the hall, and this young First Nation girl runs up to me. She was about, I don't know, 12 years old, whatever. And she ran up, she said, hey, coach. And I'm going, I wasn't coaching for 8 years. I'm going, how would this young girl know who I am? And her parents come walking, and then we chit-chatted a little bit. And she said, I know why you're not coaching. And I let down, she touched my skin. She said, because you're too brown. So when you hear kids talk like that, I mean, that's when it gets really, really tough. So I kind of leaned down. I said, no, that's not why. It just I stopped coaching because I wanted to coach my son. So he said, make up another excuse. But for the young girl to say that, and some kids believing that's hard. So we have to have another narrative to tell our kids. We can't tell our kids they can't, or because they're too brown. No, you could do anything that you want to do in your life, and you work hard and you keep doing what you do, and eventually things will work out. But that was really hard. But that young girl I met, Aaron Ashel, was one of the players that played for me in Long Island, and it was a relative of his. And I got to meet her when I recoached the Islanders, and she walked up to me. She was a young lady by then. She touched my skin. She said, I know why you're coaching now. Because your skin is brown. So anyway, it was cute. It was a good ending to a very, very disturbing thought for a young kid to have.
Yeah. Okay. I think he's on mute. You're on mute, River.
Yeah, no, I'm on mute. Yeah, no, I was just saying, don't worry about getting emotional. Me and Ray cried on this podcast quite a few times already. So it happens. We're all human. Yeah, no. So you wanted us to ask about your greatest story coaching. Well, earlier. Yeah, what's that about?
Well, I do a lot of presentations and especially coaching. People want to know, how do you coach? And, there's a whole bunch I do a whole different spiel with that, and how I did coach. I just made up drills as I went. I mean, I color coded all the players. I put the Russian 5. I said, just go out there, 5 guys, and play whatever position you want to do. And I practiced with music. I practiced in the dark. I practiced with no pucks. And I just used their imagination, pretending we had a puck, and so I did all that crazy stuff. And but anyways, the players loved it, and they worked hard. But I was coaching the Buffalo Sabres, and one of the Russian players skated up to me during practice one day, and he said, "Hey, coach, I watched a movie last night. It says Dance with Wolves." He said, "Did you see it, coach?" I said, yeah, I saw it. Did you like it? He said, I loved it, coach. He says, Medicine Man they have. Is Medicine Man, is he powerful? I said, yeah, he's pretty powerful. And he said, well, Ottawa Senators, they got a Buddha in their dressing room. He said, do you think a medicine man is more powerful than a Buddha? I said, I'm not too sure. He said, hey, coach, maybe it'd be a good idea if you bring a medicine man to speak to us. And I said, you want to listen to medicine man? So I checked with Pat LaFontaine, a couple of the leaders on our team. I said, the player wants a medicine man. Oh, coach, can you get one? I said, yeah, I can get one. So I called up a good friend of mine back home. And I said, hey, Jake, the boys want you to do ceremony. I said, who? What boys? I said, I'm coaching in Buffalo. So Where's that? He pretended, where's that? It's in the National Hockey League. So I said, we play Detroit Red Wings next week. I said, I'll get you some tickets and come down and do ceremony for the boys. And anyways, he came down. He was dressed in his buckskin jacket. I didn't know he had. He put a headband on and an eagle feather hanging down from the side, and his medicine pouch, mucklucks on. He looked like a store-bought Indian boy. So he comes down to Jonas Arena, and the players were skating around. He said, "Hey, coach, is that him?" I said, "That's him." So he came into the room, and he did all the ceremony in our language, the Ojibwe language, and you could hear a pin drop. I mean, the players were looking at him like they had big silver dollars in their eyes and everything, and you could just hear everything. And it was probably one of the most special times I ever had as a coach. You kind of cross pollinate our culture with the hockey culture, and it was one of the most special times I ever had as a coach. And anyways, at the end of the ceremony, all the boys clapped their hands and said thank you. And one of the guys walked up to him and said, "Hey, medicine man," he says, "You have anything in that bag you can put on my hockey stick? I haven't scored a goal in about a month and a half." So Jake pulls out his tobacco pouch and he sprinkles his stick. And anybody who has kids out there, kids are pretty superstitious, and I think we all are in sports. And anyways, we played that game. We lost 3-2, but the player scored a goal. So we go back to Buffalo the next night, knock on the door, same player. Say, "Hey, coach, you have any of that medicine?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I do." So I sprinkled his stick. Sure enough, lo and behold, he scores another goal. And then we play, but maybe 2-3 days later, there's another knock on the door, and the same player, but this time he has 3 buddies with him. so there's four NHL guys with their sticks over my desk, and I'm going to sprinkle them with tobacco. And as leaders and as managers and as teachers and people who work with people, there comes times in your daily routine that there's a time to motivate and time to work with what you had. And so I kicked them out of the room, and I put them in a room, and I had a little candle in my office. So I brought the candle in the locker room. I lit the candle, turned off all the lights. I asked all the players to throw their sticks in the middle of the locker room. I grabbed my tobacco pouch, and I walked around the sticks just like Jake did. And Jake did it in the Ojibwe language, and I don't speak it fluently, but I just took a lesson that week. And the lesson was, come in, sit down. Do you want to drink some tea? New hat, feed the dog. That was the lesson plan. So I'm going, I'll just say the lesson plan. They don't know. So I grabbed the tobacco pouch, and I walked around, and I didn't really know how to say it, because they're looking at me like they're looking at the medicine man. Their eyeballs were that big. So I walked around real slow, and I said, "Hey, begin again, which means come in. Nandabin, which means sit down. Nibisha no ga mi wikwan. I want to drink some tea. Wikwan, hat. And shum the mush, feed the dog." So I said it, but I said it with 3 or 4 times different ways. And I laughed, and I said, shum the mush. And I threw all the tobacco on the sticks. And I turned the lights on. The players grabbed their sticks. I think we played Philadelphia that night. We waxed them 6-2. It wasn't even close. Like, we were all over them. And then we won, I think, 16 of our next 17 games of the year. We won the Northeast Division title. I won Coach of the Year, and people say, "What's your coaching philosophy?" You know, it was just one of those moments where you get a team together and they strongly believed in something. And I tell you, I'll never forget it. And it was a great, perfect, and now a combination of our culture meeting the hockey culture, and it worked out perfectly. And we won.
Yo, that is mind blowing. I gotta take a second, man. Strong Medicine won him the trophy.
Yeah, it was. I tell you, it was really. I used to do that with hockey all the time. I grab all the players and I come up with our sweetgrass and tobacco and sage, and and burn it in the shell. And I do a ceremony at the center of the ice with all the players, and get them to think a little bit and to pray and to honor what they're doing. And so, anyways, I did that in junior. I did it in pro, and it worked. So, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. But that's a story I like to share with a lot of people, because I think it's a perfect combination of colliding two different cultures.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. No. That's so funny, dude. That's so funny. That's really, really cool, though. Do you have a hockey superstition, Ted?
No, I dropped tobacco a lot, because my mom taught me that at a very young age. Even when I went to Sochi Olympics, I brought my medicine pouch over there, and I dropped tobacco to ask for help and guidance. And it's my way of praying, and that's what I do quite a bit, and it helped us, because we almost beat Team Canada with Team Latvia. So it was one of those crazy games that. But I just think if you have faith and you believe in something, good things happen. So, but I do that quite a bit, because I think that especially when I read that book, The Sacred Hoop by Phil Jackson, it really he had an arrow in his locker room. He had the Scottie Pippen and all these Michael Jordan and all these guys stretching in a circle inside of his room, and called it, "This is where we prepare for battle." And he had a medicine pouch over his locker room for to represent power and swiftness and arrows and all this stuff. So it was really, really powerful. So I took a little bit of that. I said, man, if a white guy could do that with Chicago Bulls, maybe a native guy could do it with junior teams. And then I found out that it works in pro too. Because if you look at the pros, I mean, we have everything from top psychologists to motivationalists to the nutritionists to the best hotels and private airplanes, all best hotels, everything that money could buy. And here it was with a medicine man inside of an NHL locker room. I tell you, money can't buy that.
Yo, that's true, man. I gotta say too, that was like one of the most bittersweet moments I've ever watched, was watching you coach Latvia against the Canadians, because I was like, man, that's my guy right there on the other side, but he's about to cost this for us. Like, we need the goal, my guy. Like, what are you doing? Like it was like a weird situation watching you coach, because it was amazing to watch, right? Like, you guys were such an underdog. A lot of people would say, you had no business there, and to coach and to get those guys to believe that they could beat, probably one of the greatest teams ever assembled. What was that process like, that game like? Was it must have felt like a win anyways, or were you actually genuinely mad you didn't win?
Well, it was kind of one of those games where it's like Samson versus Goliath. It was like we had no business being in the same categories as Team Canada, but heck, strange things can happen, and I'm a strong believer. Like, even with this COVID, I mean, if you stay home and you wash your hands and you keep your distance and you eat the right foods, and it'll pass. But if you're foolish and you want to go out and do all the other stuff, there's a chance of getting it. And so winning's to me, it's not a sometime thing. If you want to do it, you got to do it all the time. And if you do things more consistently right than the opposition, the chances strongly improve. And so we just talked about grabbing this little axe and trying to chop down this great big monster tree. And I said, boys, how we get it down is one little chop at a time. And what we do, and so on, we said they bought into it. And I'll tell you, we worked like a son of a gun. They shot us like 80-20, but that was as hard as we got. And actually, I just got a phone call from one of the brothers that I coached over there. I didn't know they had gypsies in Latvia, and they had two Koba Yas and Maris Yas was their names. And I tell you, I love these guys. So they're like the Rudies in football. They just worked their tail off, and they never made the national team. They had no business being on the national team because of their skill level, but their work ethic and the way they competed. To me, they're on a team. So I got him on a team, and Cuba, before the game, I told him, I said, Skip, I said 87, a pretty good player, that Sidney Crosby kid. He said, yeah. I said, skate up to him and ask him for a stick after the game. Maybe we get into it psychologically. So Cuba skated around the warm up and asked him for a stick. Anyways, and after the game, there was a knock on the door, and it was Sidney Crosby, and he brought the stick over to Cuba Yas, which I thought was one of the most classiest things I've seen, because we tried to play the dumb pumpkins. We shouldn't be in the same category, but down deep, we felt that if things worked out, we have a chance to beat you. But a lot of guys made their and they still talk about that game over in Latvia. It was a special game for me, and I'm quite sure it was a special team for Latvia. And the time that I spent over there in their country kind of reminded me of us, with our people. They don't have too much, given a lot of things were taken away. They only have 3 rinks in their entire country. And here they were playing against Russia, Sweden, Team Canada, Team USA. And for them to be in the A pool in the World Championships was incredible. But they work like I've never seen kids work before in my life. And that was a great experience that I had over in Latvia. And going to the Sochi Olympics with them is something that I'll never forget. But it was a lot of fun. But I tell you what, that game was one of those games you'll remember for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. No, I that actually had a question about that. So, like, obviously, like, later in your coaching, you got to coach against, like, Sidney Crosby, who's, like, who was the greatest of his generation, arguably one of the greatest players ever. Like, how do you game plan against somebody like Sidney Crosby, like, with that stature as a coach?
My philosophy has always been you go at them. You try to get them off the game, because some of these, so not Sidney Crosby in particular, but some guys don't like to be hit. Some guys don't like to be pestered because their status is up here, and you can't knock them off that. But if you go and show them respect, but in a nasty way, and say I'm gonna whack them as much as I whack another guy, and try to get under their skin as much as you can, because that's the only chance that you're going to have, because these guys are so good. They're gonna get their points, but how many points are you going to let them take is how hard and how nasty you could be against them, because they don't like to be hit. Who does? That's my saying. Who does like to be hit? Nobody likes to be hit. But I tell you, if you pound people all the time, and you hit them all the time, you don't turn away, eventually that gets under their skin. Maybe they lose their cool. Maybe they say something they shouldn't say, and maybe they react in a way that they shouldn't react, and we get them off the ice. It's more power for us.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, you know what we're going to do, because people have been very patient and there's been a lot of questions. We're going to open it up to some fan questions for Mr. Ted Nolan. If you guys got a question for Mr. Ted Nolan, shoot it in the comment section. We'll post it up. We'll take a few questions anyways. Yeah, we'll wait for those to filter in. Give us 1 second. I have one more question too. Is it tough to, like, let's say a coach is Indigenous, right? And they want to get to where you're at. Cause I don't really see too many Indigenous coaches at a high level at all. Is it hard to, like, break through even to the first step? Like maybe even just to like a AAA program or like a junior A program. Like you don't really see too many NHL or coaches that reach pinnacles like yourself. Like what would you give some advice to maybe a coach that's starting out early or wants to go, move it a little further?
It's tough. It really is tough. My brother back home, he's trying to get up the ranks of from single A to double A hockey and all that stuff. And the politics in hockey is kind of it's tough. I was kind of lucky. I had my pro background, and I just happened to run into the right people at the right time. But from what I learned, and people who called me about jobs, you just got to be persistent. You got to be persistent. If you get no, don't take it. Well, they're not going to give me a chance. You got to ask again. And if they say no again, you got to ask again. and you got to constantly try to improve yourself. Like even with speaking publicly. When I was 23 years of age, I played the National Hockey League, and I really wanted to speak, particularly to our young people, about how you achieve certain goals in your life, and I really wanted to give this message. And my first speech I ever give, I'll remember it like it was yesterday. I went to a hockey banquet, and I prepared the speech for about 3 months. And here it is. Hi, my name is Ted Nolan. I was born and raised on the Garden River First Nation outside the city of Sault Ste. Marie. As you're all aware, I played my minor hockey right here. I got drafted in 1978 by Detroit Red Wings. Just completed my first year in the National Hockey League. Thank you very much for inviting me. That was my speech. And I studied that thing for about a month and a half. And then the guy who introduces me at the banquet, he said, our guest speaker tonight is Ted Nolan from the Garden River First Nation, as you're all aware, outside the city. Got drafted in 1978 by the Detroit Red Wings. Just completed his first year in the National Hockey League, and my face just freaking froze. I'm going, what am I going to say now? And I remember out with my wife and going, what am I going to say? And I couldn't say nothing. And my lips started quivering. My face turned purple. It was probably one of the most embarrassing situations of my entire life. So I told people what I wanted to do earlier, and they said, Ted, I seen you speak. That's not going to happen. So I enrolled in Dale Carnegie courses, Toastmaster courses. I took public speaking at university, and I took that for about 6 years before my next speaking engagement. So I had to learn. And in order to coach, you can't just know what you want to do. You have to articulate it well so the players can understand it. You can't just say, I know what I'm doing. You can't say that. You have to articulate what you do and how you're going to do it. So all the young coaches out there, just show your face up. Go to coaching clinics. Go to events and apply for jobs. You get rejected, apply again. I mean, I tried out for every AAA team in Sault Ste. Marie for every year I played. I never made a team 1 year. That didn't deter me from keep playing. So you just got, if something you want to do it. You might not be able to do it at the National Hockey League, but that doesn't mean you can't be a successful coach and making a difference in young people's lives behind a bench of a house league hockey team.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We got a ton of questions filtering in here. We'll take the first one. I like this one. Who is the Russian player that watched Dances with Wolves, if you're allowed to say?
His name was Alex Zhitnik. He was a really good player, and his English language wasn't the greatest. He said, hey coach. But he was the one, and So I'm awesome. I was glad he asked me that question.
Yeah. We got another one here. It's not a question. It just says, hey, I just want to say thank you. Honestly, the scholarship was a turning point in my life. Much love to you and your family. That was Jade Roberts. She had said earlier in the comments that she had been a recipient of your Ted Nolan scholarship. And that's really nice to say. She runs a podcast too, Still Here, Still Healing. If you want to check her out, Jade Levi Roberts, give her a follow.
She also said, please share the info for other Indigenous women to apply for the Rose Nolan Scholarship.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Jade very well.
Awesome. All right.
Good friend of ours. Really good friend.
Let's go with, have you made friendships with any other NHL players that you keep into contact this day? I know there's like an alumni society, that kind of an Indigenous alumni. Do you keep in contact with anyone from your playing days?
You know what? I made a couple of friends that I played with, but not too many I played against. I still keep in contact with a lot of players, particularly Pat LaFontaine. He has a foundation in the United States, and that's how we kind of shared ideas to help springboard my foundation here in Canada. I speak to Matthew Barnaby occasionally, and run into Brad May, and run into some of the former players but rarely do I see a coach that I coached against. Or players that I coached against either. So it was you think I know them, and but I try to keep Brad Marchand for example. He is one of my all-time favorites. Some people who see him play I think he's a little pain in the rear, but I tell you, yeah, you want him on your team. He's a gifted player. He's a competitive son of a gun. He could play for me any day. So we had a great relationship when we played. Keith Yandel down in Phoenix, a good player. So some of the players, Chris Simon, Denny Lambert. When I coached the Sioux Grounds, there was I believe five Indigenous players in the league. I had four of them. So yeah, so I keep in contact as many, a few, but not all, as everybody would think.
Right. We got another question here. Do you remember coaching a team of First Nations boys here in Saskatchewan against some European teams? I think it was the Czechs or the Slovakians. Might have been in Onion Lake. Ringing a bell at all?
I remember that very vividly. I tell you, it was probably one of the most. It was that poor team. I think they were intimidated before the game even started. I mean, all the brown faces in the building. It was packed. A lady sang the national anthem on the drum, and it was half chant and half "Oh Canada." I tell you, it was. I remember that very well, very, very well. I tell you, and I think we're the only team that beat that. I think it was the Czechs. We're the only team that beat them in their round robin exhibition games leading up to the World Championships.
Wow. We've been getting a lot of these, and I think this should be an automatic yes. But it's would you consider writing a book with all the experience, hardships, good times, and knowledge? Have you ever had any thoughts about it yet?
Yeah, we had some initial thoughts, but that's where they are. But like I said, it's just one of the. If it would be a book, it would be something about hopefully inspirational one for the next generation to not to give up and persevere, and it'll be a educational tool for non-native people to have a little bit more understanding and compassion to some of our kids who are coming in from different places, not used to a city life, and so it'll be something based on that if I do.
Yeah. Here's an amazing question. Chris Scribe asks, what would you tell 25-year-old Ted Nolan about how to navigate systematic racism and succeed in those systems? You're amazing, Ted.
You know what? I asked myself, there's one place I went and a gentleman stood up and he said, Ted, if you can go back in time and ask yourself a question, what would that question be to yourself? And everything will turn out. Everything will be okay. And be proud of who you are and stay strong in who you are and don't waver. And maybe it would stop a few of those sleepless nights. Maybe it'll stop some of the frustration that everything will work out and everything, and be proud of who you are. So that's what I tell my young self, and that's what I try to tell as many young people right now. You know, when you go through difficult times, it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. You just got to go through that rough period of time, and I know it's unpleasant, but you fight through it. You don't give up, and you'll be able to come out the other end smelling pretty good, and things work out. But don't give up.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We got one more here. In 1993, I went to a hockey camp in Lloydminster. You were the dry land trainer, and during that camp, yourself, Gino, Chris Simon, Sandy McCarthy. It was the best camp I ever went to. My question is, would you do another camp here in Saskatchewan sometime down the road?
There's actually,
I tell you what, if you contact,
like 2 or 3 questions just like that too. So there definitely is the
definitely.
interest there.
We do hockey schools, and you know things have a weird way of working out, and my love for hockey, although was kind of diminished a few times, but I'm in love again. I love hockey because I'm doing hockey schools with my 2 boys, and we call it the 3N. 3 Nolan hockey camps for First Nation communities. We went up in Saskatchewan, a few places, and went out to Enoch, went out to Alberta. We have them in Quebec. Just track us down on my son Brandon. He does all the bookings, and we'd love to come out to Saskatchewan and do a hockey school for sure.
Hey.
Awesome. Also, The merch. People are wondering where they could buy the Three Nolans merch.
You know what? That's on Three Nolans too. You go on there, and it has a because of COVID. I don't know if anybody heard about the little NHL up your way, but it's the largest First Nation tournament in Ontario. We have something like 230 teams, and we used to go there every year but now because of COVID, my son Brandon, maybe I'll get him to text you on your show. But you can get it on Three Nolan website, Facebook. It's all over there, and I guess there's an ordering page on there.
Awesome. All right, we got time for probably one more question here. We'll take this one right here. Who was the hardest player to coach in the NHL? Sorry if you answered. I don't think you've answered this already. Who was the toughest player that you ever coached against?
Toughest player I ever coached against?
Yeah.
Oh man, you could pick them. I mean, Crosby. It was one of the Ovechkin. I mean, everybody. You look at the game and go, how does that guy keep scoring from the same spot? And everybody knows. I mean, it's you should just put a man on top of him and don't let him shoot. But then it opens up and it just throws everything off. So Ovechkin. You look at Steven Stamkos in Tampa Bay. You look at Little Marchand in Boston. Bergeron. I mean, you look. There's so many. Patrick Kane in Chicago. You look at all those players. Now they got McDavid, and I mean, he flies. I mean, how to defend against them? You cross your fingers and be at the right spot, and hopefully the puck hits you before it goes to the net. But it's tough. But what you do is you just kind of unite as a 5-man unit on the ice, and you protect that little house in front of your net, and be as patient as you can, and don't go fishing. And if you do that, you have a chance to eliminate their opportunity. You're never going to close them, because if somebody figured that out, they wouldn't get as many points as they do. But it's a tough game, and it's 1-on-1, and they could do some magic with that puck. Unbelievable stuff they could do with the puck. So you got to be in a good position. So it's tough. To answer the question, it's tough.
That's a great answer. All right, Ted. Well, we are about time to wrap it up. What we like to do here at the end is we like to put our guest on the main page. You know, you can take as long as you want, you know, spend a few minutes, talk about whatever you'd like to talk about, maybe shout out your merch, shout out Three Nolans, you know, whatever you need to do, talk about it. And then we'll bring you back in to thank you at the end. So I'm going to put you up on the main screen here right now.
Whoa. Am I good to go?
You're good to go. Give them your message, Ted.
Well, Raymond and River, thank you very much for asking me to be part of your show. It was an honor, and you said something about Adam Beach being on your show last week and how comfortable he was, and I also was very fortunate to be part of a lot of interviews. And I'll tell you, I felt at home also. I think maybe because we're interviewing each other. And we know each other, and we know where we come from, and some of the obstacles and hurdles that we have to overcome. So there's that common bond that bonds us all. So thank you very much for allowing me to be on your show, and keep up the great work. What you guys are doing, it's incredible, and that's what we need. We need our voices to be heard. I know sometimes we're humble people, and we're relaxed. But sometimes we have to speak out, and we have to tell our stories and let our stories be heard, because we got a lot of great stories out, a lot of great stories that should be shared. And sometimes we look at negative things too much, and I think we have to start sharing some of the positive stories in our community. Some of the people are graduating, becoming doctors, becoming lawyers, becoming technicians. It's not all about sports. I mean, sports is a great vehicle to keep our kids occupied, and that's one of the things about our hockey school. We have hockey schools, Three Nolans. You can check it on our website, the 3nolans.com. And we have hockey schools that we come to the First Nation communities right across Canada, and we want to bring a high-end hockey camp. But it's not so much to generate the next generation of hockey players, is trying to lure the kids through hockey, and we talk to them about being good people, about being true to yourself, being proud of who you are, and making sure that you stay in school and get yourself a good education, because that's what our people need. We need good educated people to continue the fight and to fight back for all the things that were taken away, and make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. So to be on a show like yours is truly an honor for myself, and that's about it. I mean, it was a true blessing to be here, and I'm very proud of the boys. Developed their own logo. 3N represents actually there's four of us, and one big boss behind us all, and that's her mom and my wife Sandra. So, but we do the hockey schools, and it's I tell you, it's a lot of fun. We want to make sure the kids learn a few things, compete, learn how to battle, but most importantly, take away a good sense of self-worth and how important you are, and keep believing, and eventually good things will happen. So thank you again, and look forward maybe down the road we can do this down the road one more time.
Hey, you know it. Anytime you want to come back on, Mr. Nolan, you are more than welcome. Bring your boys, bring yourself, whoever you need to, and you come hang out with us for as long as possible. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for your time. Getting to call you this afternoon was very surreal. Like I said, me and River kind of ruined half the podcast because we just started firing questions at you, and thankfully you're very gracious with your time, and you sat there and answered our questions, and it was a real surreal moment, and not something I take lightly. So thank you very much, like I said again, for your time and for coming on today. Thank you so much, Mr. Nolan. And River's on mute again.
Yeah, that happens. I be eating cheesies a lot. You'll hear the crunchiness, and I don't want to take away from his message. I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. It's such an honor for you to give us the time, for you to share your knowledge and your stories with us, and you're an inspiration to me and Ray as Indigenous youth, and you're an inspiration to everybody watching, and I just cannot thank you enough. I got chills multiple times on this podcast this evening when we're talking, just from your stories and the things you had to say. I felt it, and it's powerful, and what we're doing here is something that's much bigger than all of us. This is something that I hope that will bring power to many, many First Nations people. And that's what we do here at Boxing Around. And you're more than welcome to come back again, especially when we're in Vancouver and we have our studio out. We could all sit down together and have another conversation. I just want to say thank you, Ted. It means the world to me and Raymond for you having us on here tonight.
Well, thank you very much. And all the listeners out there and yourselves, stay safe.
Hey, thank you so much, Ted. Hey, bro, that was amazing, man. That was such a great time. Wow. Man, I got to find a medicine man like that too that can take care of me in that way, dude. Oh, geez. So there was, man, thank you for everyone that stayed on and stuck with us through that, man. That's amazing that a lot of people are staying through for the full podcast and listening to what our guests have to say. It's really special, man. It always feels kind of surreal. You get these little moments where, today me and River are on the phone with him, and I think it was supposed to be like a 2-minute conversation to set up the podcast. And me and River were fired questions off at him for like 45 minutes, just bugging him, picking his brain. And thankfully, like I said, he was so gracious with his time, and it meant a lot to us to do that with him, man. It's getting crazy, bro. It's getting crazy. Sometimes I don't realize it right away, and then I sit back and I'm like, yo, that's facts. Hey, yeah. And once again, man, I can't say it enough, bro. Shout out to our big brother, man, Jay Chiquita. So much love for you, bro. Thank you. He made this all possible. He got the connection between Ted and us, man, and it was dope.
Yeah,
What you
bro.
guys say?
I don't know, man. That was crazy. That was dope. It was amazing, man. Yeah.
Hey,
That was a cool story you told us about Mario Lemieux too earlier. Remember on the phone? Yeah.
yeah. We'll have to get him on next time and tell the story of Mario Lemieux. Shout out Smudge the Blades, man. I got our Boxing Around hoodie on, but if I'm not in this one, then I'm in a Smudge the Blades hoodie. Give our boy Harlan Kingfisher some love, man. We got to get him on here soon. Pull him up, see what he's been up to. Yeah. Nothing but love. Thank you guys, everybody. We're going to start taking pre-orders for some merch. We got grays. We got the blacks that River's wearing. We also got the hat that's River's wearing. And we're going to do some sweats. Oh, you got them on?
Gitch. No, I don't have them on.
Oh, shucks. Yeah. And then we'll do Foxing Around Gitch. Eventually.
Yeah.
Bro, that's clown.
Eventually.
Yeah. So who's our guest on Sunday? Next Sunday. Tell him, Reef. This is your get. This is your grab. You secured the bag on this one. Tell him who we got.
Team Canada volleyball player. Played professionally. Played for Team Canada. One of the greatest First Nations volleyball player. Dallas Sounias. If you don't know who Dallas Sounias is, you live under.
You about to find out. You about to find out. I was Foxing Around Speedo. Yeah, we got you, bro. Don't worry. Also, too, shout out to my mom. If you guys can go to her page, it's called Krista's Kilometers for MMIW. My mom is going to be walking across Canada, dog. Isn't that crazy? She's going to start February 18th, 2022. I'm really excited for her. I'm really trying to put some momentum behind her page, man. Give her a follow. Go check us out, too, at 7 Stars Media if you haven't yet. Our podcast network is pretty much fully launched. There's going to be shows pretty much every day. We got Tanya Jo Hall. We got Haley Rose. We got Shaylin Fox. We got Tyler Latula. And we got Des Denomi coming through. We got a bunch of people that are going to be popping off on our podcast network. I hope I didn't forget anyone.
Mr. Short? Mr.
Oh,
Short.
yeah, man. How could I forget the nephew? God dang. We got Mr. Vincent Short, too, comes and does a live show every Friday with us, man. I almost forgot about him. So how could I do that? Well, I think that's pretty much it. Till next Sunday. Like I said, be on the lookout for the poster for Dallas. We're going to drop the merch pre-sale on Wednesday. So we'll gauge numbers. Make sure you get your order in on Wednesday or Friday when the Serb hits. And yeah, we'll get you some new Champion X Foxing Around gear. It's really, really dope. So
yeah, and everything's sold out in a week too. So try to get them pre-orders in.
Word. And yeah, because we sell out fast. And just so you guys know, everything that we do make goes directly back into our podcast to update our systems, to keep all the lights on around here, keep us growing. Hey, and thank you guys to all you guys out there that support. You guys don't know how much it means when you guys start liking our videos and sharing them and all your encouraging words. It makes us want to do what we do even more. So I got nothing but love. We should do like a fan appreciation night one of these nights. Just like get on a Wednesday and just start giving away some stuff and talking to everybody and letting people call in. I think that would be dope, huh?
Yeah, get some fans to come to talk to us and share their stories, and yeah, we can do that. But yeah, bro, I have an assignment due at midnight, so. Hey,
there we go. Time crunch. Once again, thank you, Ted Nolan. Go check him out. 3 Nolans. Go order some gear. Yeah, there's the cheesy munch. River got mad last week because homie was eating like, and I muted his mic. I was like, yo, you got some mad cheesy backdrop going on, bro. Just about killed our audio. But
your cheeks. Backdrop. I was kidding, bro.
We've been too long if the your cheeks jokes start coming out. All right, much love to everybody. Take care of yourselves. Make sure to wear a mask, wash your hands, practice safe social distancing. There we go. I was trying to spit too many S's. Much love to everybody. Peace.